Welcome back to my channel. The following stories have been crafted for sleep. Before we start, please do me a kindness, hit like and hit subscribe. Let's begin. Story number 1. The Missing. Detective Sarah Mercer had seen her fair share of missing person cases, but none as strange as this one. Amelia Carter, a 17-year-old girl, had vanished without a trace from her bedroom one stormy night. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle, just an open window and a cold breeze where she once had been. Her desperate parents had reached out to every possible avenue, including police, private investigators, and even psychics. But weeks turned into months, and Amelia remained missing. That was when a group of Amelia's friends, desperate for answers, turned to something unconventional, a Ouija board. They had gathered in the Carter's family basement, candlelight flickering, their hands trembling as they placed them on the planchette. "Amelia, are you there?" one of the girls whispered. The planchette began to move, first slowly, then with purpose. "Yes." The girls gasped, exchanging nervous glances. "Where are you?" another asked. "Woods. Underground," the board spelled out. Detective Mercer wasn't a believer in the supernatural, but when one of the girls confessed what they had done and repeated what the board had spelled out, something about it nagged at her. The Carter residence bordered a dense forest, and there was an old abandoned mine a few miles in. Could it be coincidence? Mercer and her partner, Officer Daniels, followed the clue, venturing deep into the woods. The mine's entrance was nearly concealed by overgrowth, a place forgotten by time. As they stepped inside, the air grew damp, and an eerie silence swallowed the sounds of their footsteps. Then a noise, faint, like a whisper. "Help!" Heart hammering, Mercer followed the sound, her flashlight sweeping through the darkness, and there, huddled against the cold rock wall, was Amelia, emaciated but alive. Later, when she was safe in a hospital bed, she recounted the night of her disappearance. A shadowy figure at her window, a sudden drowsiness overtaking her, and then waking in the mine, unable to escape. To this day no one knows who took her, but the Ouija board had led them to her, and that was enough for Mercer to start believing, if only a little. Story number 2. The Vanishing Man. It started with a scream in the night. Daniel Whitmore, a quiet college professor, had vanished from his locked apartment, leaving behind an overturned chair, a shattered lamp, and a single word scrawled on his mirror: "Help." His sister Jessica refused to believe he had simply left. The police had found no forced entry, no sign of a struggle beyond the dishevelled living room, and yet Daniel was gone. Desperate, Jessica turned to an old friend, Marcus, who had once dabbled in the occult. He brought with him an antique Ouija board. "We have to try," Marcus said as they sat in Daniel's apartment, the board between them. Jessica hesitated, then placed her fingers on the planchette. "Daniel, if you're here, please, tell us what happened." The planchette jerked violently beneath their fingers. A chill crept through the room. "Taken," the board spelled. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. "By who? Where are you?" A series of letters formed. Dark, room, below. The apartment had a basement, but the police had searched it thoroughly. Still, something compelled Jessica to check again. She and Marcus descended the creaky stairs, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The basement was cluttered with old furniture, boxes and dust-covered antiques. Then they saw it, a section of the floor that looked wrong. The dust settled differently there, as if it had been disturbed. With Marcus's help, Jessica pried up the wooden boards, revealing a hidden passageway leading even deeper underground. The stench of damp earth and decay filled their nostrils as they ventured inside. Then they heard it, a ragged breath, a weak whisper. "Jessica!" Daniel was there, bound and barely conscious, his face pale and gaunt. Someone had held him there, but the room was empty. No signs of his captor, only the eerie sense that something had been watching them. They never found out who had taken him. The security cameras showed no intruders, no forced entry, but Daniel would wake screaming, whispering of shadows that moved when no one was looking. And the Ouija board? The next morning Jessica found it split in two, as if something had decided their game was over. Story number 3. The Séance of Shadows. The murder of Victor Langston had shaken the town. A wealthy businessman found dead in his study with no sign of forced entry, no apparent struggle, and a look of absolute terror frozen on his face. The police had no leads, and the case went cold within weeks. This was until a spiritualist, Eleanor Hawthorne, came forward, claiming she had been visited by Victor's spirit in her dreams. She requested permission to hold a séance in his room, and with no other avenues left to pursue, Detective Rowan reluctantly agreed. The night of the séance, a small group gathered. Rowan, Eleanor, Victor's widow Margaret, and a few others. The Ouija board lay before them, its polished surface gleaming under the candlelight. "Victor, if you are here, tell us, who did this to you?" Eleanor intoned. The planchette moved, slowly at first, then faster, spelling out, "Watch." The room's air thickened, the candles flickered, violently, as if an unseen force had exhaled. Then the large mirror on the study wall clouded over, a shadow forming within its depths. And then, movement. A figure materialized in the mirror, a man in a black cloak, face hidden. The temperature dropped sharply as the shadow raised a hand, pointing at Margaret. Margaret let out a strangled scream and bolted for the door, but Rowan caught her. "What did you do?" he demanded. Through sobs, Margaret confessed. Victor had planned to leave her, cut her out of his fortune. In a fit of rage, she had sought out an old book of curses, something she had never truly believed in, until it worked. She had whispered an incantation, not expecting it to truly stop his heart. The shadow in the mirror seemed to pulse, and with one final flicker of the candles, it vanished. The air grew still once more. Margaret was arrested that night. The case was solved, but Rowan never forgot the way the shadow had watched them, as if it knew more than it let on. And the Ouija board? It was left in the study, its letters faded, its power spent, until the next time someone dared to ask the dead for answers. Thank you for joining me this evening. Sweet dreams.